Here in Vermont, I'm going to read a story called Carpe Noctem. It was sometime after 2 a.m. and they lay stuck together in the hot space of the bottom bunk in a crowded room in a youth hostel. Helena whispered, "I wish we had some privacy." Being always awake and committed to the sanctity of impulse and unrestricted desire, also inspired by a stiff prick, her warm breasts and the wetness of her mouth, Ed suggested they go get a hotel room. "Don't worry, I'll pay," he said. She didn't need him to repeat it. They got up and gathered their bags and packs silently in the middle of the dark, stale, sweaty room with 14 people snoring and sleeping and dreaming a reality. They tumbled down the stairs, excited, alive, and inspired. Helena told the plump matron behind the bar of the hostel, a bar that was open 24 hours day and night, that they'd be back in a couple of days, and would she mind storing some of our bags for us? The old portly lady smiled over her coffee and paper and said okay. They put their bags behind the bar and back near the kitchen in the spare room. "Au revoir, mon chéri," the matron said as they flew open the door into the cool, damp night air of Amsterdam. They caught a cab and Ed asked the cabbie to drive into the city center. They cruised the streets, passing figures clothed in shadows beneath bumblebee lanterns, over vaulted bridges, passing old churches and the occasional modern building. There were many people out strolling and rolling in the cold, wet wee hours of a random weekday in February. Helena leaned her head on Ed's shoulder and he held her hair in his fingers, staring at the lights on the water, the lights on the street flashing by, intoxicated by the sweet spontaneity and exhilaration of acting according to the promptings of his own true heart. On one narrow street with tall gabled buildings side to side, Ed spied a hotel. There were no guidebooks or maps on this trip. He asked the silent cabbie to stop and paid him the fare as they gathered their gear and sauntered into the lobby. Ed was immediately shocked by the grand marble and well-lit cleanliness of the place. There was one there more shocked than he. A man with an alabaster face and teeth made of brass stood stiffly behind the marble countertop in a pressed gray suit. He saw them, held the pose like an actor at the end of a performance, holding the moment, stretching it, looking down at the two voyageurs with insolent curiosity. They wandered up and Ed leaned his old corduroy elbow on the marble and asked him the price of a room. It was far higher than he was willing to pay, but with a momentary reaffirmation of his reckless determination to live freely and spend carelessly, he began filling out the form. Halfway down, pondering what address a man can put when he has no permanent home, it occurred to Ed that he might be able to easily find a cheaper spot for them to get hot and stripped down to skin. Helena stood next to him, a practical woman, observing all this silently, a tired little monster with her red hair mussed and tangled, leather jacket crumpled, a hand on her hip, leaning close to him. She tosses him a look that says, "Let's get out of here." Ed looks at the man with the countenance of stone. "Sir, this is a lovely hotel," he said in a very affected British accent, "but I think we'll try somewhere else. Sorry, cheers." The man looked down over his long, disdainful lip with blank, ball-bearing eyes as Ed and Helena spun like a waltz move, grabbing their gear. And out on the street, who was fortuitously leaning on the hood of a cab, smoking a fag, but the same cabbie, who grins, says nothing, their late-night chauffeur, and puts the bags back into the boot. This time Ed politely asks him if he knows a more affordable spot. "I think I know the place for you and your friend," he says, and takes them back across the main bridge to the Hotel Ibis, a tall high-rise that was just a few blocks from the hostel they recently left. The price of the room was just barely half of the alabaster suite. Ed scribbles Perry's Oxford address on the form, figuring that will do, and they rode up the lift feeling that effortlessly smooth and serendipitous flow that happens sometimes when you are on the road. There is a splendid view from between the curtains of the old church and plaza beneath, and a canal ripples with golden ribbons of lantern light. Ed rolls an index finger-sized spliff and watches Helena as she gazes out at the scene. This girl from Bosnia, a student of philosophy, whom he knew back in Boston many years before, and only on 2 occasions. Once at a restaurant, and the next up on her rooftop in Jamaica Plain, fucking beneath a harvest moon. But it was now that meant everything to both of them. Ed slides up behind her, kisses her neck, inhaling the sweet scent of traveling, the blended aromas of trains, buses, roadsides, the scent of wet wool, tobacco, sweat, coffee, leather, hope, and adventure, the smell of long, weary roads and magic meetings. The sky is slightly brightening in the east. Ed closes the curtains, curls his arm around Elena's waist, guides her to the king-size bed, and they do not sleep till noon.